Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are set to face off on Thursday for the earliest presidential debate in modern history by like a lot. Usually it's September. The debate, hosted by CNN, moderated by Jake Tapper, and Dana Bash, will be the first time Biden and Trump have gone head-to-head or have been in the same room since our last debate in October of 2020. I don't think they like each other. A Marist poll from last week shows a dead heat between the candidates, and actually Biden was up a little bit. He's been going up a little bit, including in a Fox News poll, which is making former President Trump lose his mind, which is not very far to go. So let's talk about strategery, Scott. Now, here you are going into this debate. I talked about it a little bit on the Chris Wallace show this week, but what is the strategery? Just for some more background, RFK Jr. did not make the cut for the debate, falling short in ballot qualification and polling. He's making a lot of noise. The debate rules, just for people to know, and then I love your thoughts on this: no live audience, no props allowed on stage. Microphones will be muted when it's not a candidate's turn to speak. I believe they have 2 minutes. Biden won the coin toss and selected his podium position on the right side of the screen. Trump then chose to have the last word in closing statements. So what do we think? Give me a what Biden should. This is the question we asked on Chris Wallace. I thought it was a good one. Does this setup help? Which one? If you were the marketing guy here, figuring out sort of the optics of it, which one do you think this set helps?
Oh, it's total Team Biden in terms of advantage.
Interesting.
Trump is so quick and outrageous on his feet, and so plays to the crowd and tickles people's sensors. And all that, him constantly interrupting people, it just throws the other person off kilter. So them shutting off the mic is totally advantageous to Biden. There would be some crazy. I think Democrats tend to be a little bit more civil than maybe MAGA people. He's not going to show up with a bunch of people who've accused. I mean, do you remember the bullshit with
Clinton? Yes,
Senator
remember
Clinton?
Bill Clinton's.
So he creates a sideshow and a carnival, which throws the other person off their feet. And the strategy here is really simple. Okay, let's talk about the economy. I wouldn't go to.
All right, let me get. What is the one thing Biden should avoid, and one thing he should lean into, and what is the one thing Trump should avoid and lean into?
If I were Biden, I would stay away from the Trump court cases. I think that people will go there on their own, and I think he wants to talk about the economy and bodily autonomy and how he is actually taking action against immigration. I would go very, very almost conservative and hard right on immigration and say, now, if the Republicans would only help me solve the crisis at the border. And I would talk about the economy. I would talk about numbers. I would be very kind of adult, almost like an economist. And I would end the debate with the following. Awkward pause. My last question to our viewers tonight, after thanking CNN, is, do you have daughters? And I would just leave the air empty for a few seconds.
Very good. I like that. Many people think he should not. You know how Reagan did that fantastic rejoinder, right? I'm not going to let my age take advantage. He's not witty like that. And so should he have a joke in his pocket, though, about his age? If Trump goes there? Because Trump's got some cognitive dingity-dongs happening constantly now.
Yeah, I mean, he should have he should have prepackaged 2 or 3, and when someone brings up age, he should come up with, say, look, we're both probably consumers of catheters. I would make jokes that remind everybody that the guy across the stage from me is also really fucking old, folks. So you hate us both, whatever you want to talk about. But him not having a hot mic, if I were Trump, I would talk a lot about what's happened on universities when Democrats take over institutions and what's happened in democratically controlled cities. That's where I would focus if I were Trump.
Chaos, crime and chaos, sort of the Nixon-y kind of thing.
Well, the arguments they should make, and this is what media they should roll every day, is this is what happens when democratically controlled leadership takes over an institution. Look at what's happened to our elite universities. This is what happens when Democrats get control of a city, even if it has a ton of money. This is what happens. Is it
okay?
Go downtown San Francisco. Is this what you want the country to be? I realize that's not fair. I realize you love San Francisco. That is just from a perception standpoint.
You're coming with me there. Okay, go ahead. It's changed. But go ahead. I agree.
I live there.
I agree.
It might be wonderful. I'm just talking pure perception. People who've never been there for some reason think it's a hellscape right now, unfairly or fairly. And also, to be fair, like Portland and Seattle are really, I have been to those cities recently. They've changed a lot.
They have. I agree with you. So what are the things what should Trump not do? Because some people think he will be calmer when he can't be jacked up. That's the thing. And so he'll be, if you recall the first debate with Biden, and this is a long time ago, he was, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Really, stand back and stand by, interruptive, crazy. And all Biden had to say is, come on, man. He kept doing, and Biden sort of won that debate. The second one, it looked like he was drugged and calmer. So some people think no live audience, no props, microphones muted will make him into reasonable Trump. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would never advise. It's like Michael Jackson used to show up with one glove and grab his crotch. I don't think any amount of prep would have told him to do it, and yet it was genius at the time. You're like, okay, it works for him. I don't know how to advise Trump, because every piece of advice I would have would be try and act more sane, because that's people's fear around you, and try not to be all over the place. Try and focus on, try and come across as people. You want to look at points of distinction and then press on those points of distinction. The reason if Biden loses this election, it'll be because of the following. The people see him as too feeble to be commander-in-chief. That is the only reason he will lose.
Yep.
And so you want to press on that. And so Trump wants to come across as distinctly more robust and young. And part of that is cognitive capability. So if I was preparing Trump, I would say you need to have command of the issues. You need to come across as somewhat sane. You need to come across as youthful and vigorous, laugh, poke fun of yourself, and have real command of the data. You need to draw sharp relief between you and the old man. That's what my advice would be.
Yeah, the problem is, like, everywhere he goes, he's missing words now. He's doing a lot of stuff, and obviously has a family history of dementia. But one of the things that I think is problematic, and I spoke to a lot of people in that CEO summit, they were surprised. Now, look, they're going to back Trump because it's good for them in tax cuts, let me just say. And someone who was there saying they thought he was crazy, they're still going to back him, right? He was losing words. He was going off on tangents. This was a crowd that was welcoming to him, this CEO group, the Business Roundtable, and was willing to, like, overlook the insurrection kind of stuff for a tax cut. And I talked to a number of people who were like, whoa, like that kind of thing. So I think that's where I don't know how much he has control over that or is willing to do that. I think one of the things he cannot do is talk about losing the election. That's a great
point.
Whether it was stolen.
That's a great point.
Cannot.
I agree.
He cannot look backwards, but he can't get off of that. You stole the election. You stole the election. That thing is.
If he does that, it's an opportunity.
It animates him.
Yeah. If he does that,
it animates him.
If he does that, it's a huge opportunity for Biden. Biden needs to be ready to go and go. Okay, 43 cases, zero credibility. Just X, Y, Z. What's the difference between What's the difference between us and every other nation? We have people who concede Biden has to be ready to really, like, drive a train through that.
I think Trump can't help it.
You're probably right.
Everything
You're
he
probably
does.
right.
And then the other thing he's saying, the last thing I'd say is he's all saying that Biden's getting a shot in the ass, which means Trump is getting a shot in the ass, right? Like, everything he says, I'm like, oh, that's what you're doing. Like, that he's getting special drugs. I mean, Trump looks like he's taken every drug in town. Like, it feels like Ozempic. It looks like he's juicing.
Biden needs to practice the age-old adage about being interviewed. Don't answer the question they ask, answer the question you want to ask. At some point, he needs to say the following. Trump tried to ban TikTok and carve it up. We have actually banned it or investing it with a plan that will pass muster, that makes sense. Biden constantly, Trump talks about safety in the Middle East. We sent 2 aircraft carriers over there, and we have so far sequestered this from becoming a more regional conflict. He needs to say, okay, Trump talks a big game, but we actually, we have some overlap here. You agreed. You thought TikTok was a national threat. I want to give you credibility for it. We've actually done something about it. You talk a big game about being an ally to Israel. We're actually the real ally here. One of us has deployed an aircraft carrier there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true. I think one of the interesting things going into this, the money raising. Now, Trump they thought this would happen, but he's raised $141 million in May. Biden raised $85 million. He was way ahead, Biden. $53 million came in from Trump 24 hours after the hush money verdict, of course. He's really done very well by being a felon. There's also, I think that'll ultimately even out, and it depends on where they spend it. I don't know what else to say. I don't think there's going to be a big deficit between them. Trump VP speculation, he's making a circus of it. He revealed this weekend he knows who his pick will be, although he hasn't told the person yet. The future VP candidate will most likely be at the debate, according to Trump. Top contenders, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Tim Scott. I think I've settled on Burgum at this point. He's managing to carry the water for him and seems not as nuts as the others. So I think he doesn't like Marco Rubio. I think he thinks J.D. Vance will take attention from him. Tim Scott looks like a toady, so much so. So I suspect it's Burgum. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem appears to be out of the running. She indicated on Meet the Press over the weekend.
Because Trump has a
she's not been
dog.
formally vetted. Yeah, no, he doesn't.
He
have a
doesn't.
dog.
No, that makes sense.
He doesn't have any pets.
That makes sense.
Just make a guess, and then I'll ask you the last question.
Well,
about the Supreme Court's decision.
I don't know. I think it's probably going to be Bergen. But just one last thing, if I were on the Trump team,
Sure.
I would hammer over and over. Just to be snarky, I would go,
Kamala.
I would go 100%. I'd be like, well, President Harris. And he's like, you better get used to that. If he really wants to go gangster, he'd say the following. You're not voting for Joe Biden. You're voting for President Harris. Just wrap your head around that, because she's deeply unpopular.
Yeah, I think you're right. I hate to say it, but I think that would work really well. We'll see if he comes up with it. Meanwhile, we're still waiting for the Supreme Court's decision on the Trump immunity case. What in the world are they doing over there at the Supreme Court? The next batch of opinions will be released on Wednesday. They've got a lot to go, and they've got a very short term to do it in. The day before the debates, we get a decision then. The immunity decision, I think they're probably wrangling over it, right? I think Alito's been hurt, probably, with the flag situation. But in terms of power, but I suspect they're trying to come I have this feeling that Amy Coney Barrett's just not going along with the boys at this point on this kind of thing. But who knows? She seems to have formed relationships with the other women on the court, which is interesting. What do you think of this? Not on abortion, obviously, but what do you think? Does this affect it?
I think that's wishful thinking that she's siding with.
I know, but lately she has been, I don't know, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
I think she's gotten hanging around other people, and she's so smart. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
godly or not, she's sharp as a tack.
She's a legal scholar.
It'll be. I don't know. I just think she's probably with Judge Jackson, who's also. Oh Jesus, what a brain! I suspect that's the thing that appeals to her. Even religious gals who are brainy love the brainy part more than anything. Ultimately, I don't know. That's my wishful thinking. Is that they're all having they're hanging and squatting up or something.
By the way, you said something that sort of struck me. So try and clear your mind and just first answer.
Okay.
Biden Harris, Trump Bergen, or Tapper Bash. Who would you rather be president and vice president? Seriously.
Dana Bash, are you kidding?
I think Dana's fantastic. I think Jake is fantastic. I'm not exaggerating. Who would you think would do a better job?
Younger, probably.
If and maybe I'm being sexist because I immediately thought of Jake Tapper as the president and Dana as number two.
He looks like. Yeah.
But quite frankly, I think they're both super impressive, thoughtful people who know how to.
Jake Tapper for president.
If they were on the ticket,
he would like that.
If they were on the ticket,
yeah,
that they got my vote. Those are the two.
I'd vote for Cuban. I told
those
you.
Two should be on stage, not asking the
cubes.
questions.
I want Cubes to run.
Mark,
That's what I want.
he'll be in the race for 2028. When he starts bragging about paying his taxes, he's clearly positioning himself for a run, and I hope he runs.
He's very articulate about all kinds of issues.
Super smart, super impressive guy.
Yeah, probably.
And a decent man.
2028, unless Trump wins and ruins democracy, will be really interesting on both parties. It'll change year, and maybe we'll all be a little better. Who knows?